Fantasy fanfiction. After retiring from the Zero Division, Aizen came to study. Chapter 31. This kind of knife is also the foundation for Xian Yi to make a living and become stronger after traveling to Soul Society. This is the world of Lingxi. Once he controls Lingxi and understands the mysteries between Lingxi, most of the secrets in this world are no longer secrets to him, and the power beyond Lingxi can also there is only one kind. That is, the power of the Spirit King. The spiritual king is an existence infinitely close to omniscience and omnipotence. His power laid the foundation of this world. Even the scattered parts of his body possess various special abilities. This kind of power is already difficult to distinguish with the ordinary spirit sun system. Strictly speaking, it should be the power of rules and laws. This kind of power is even more mysterious. When it is placed in front of Xian Yi, who has already understood the nature of the spirit sun, for Xian Yi, it is naturally full of strong temptation. If he could master such power and understand its secrets, it might be possible for him to go one step further. It's also this curiosity. After he was promoted to the Zero Division, he was always under the Soul King, so close to the Soul King, and the desire in his heart became increasingly difficult to contain. But Xian Yi also knew that in the Lingwang Palace, it was impossible for him to attack the Lingwang. Therefore, he chose to leave the Soul King Palace and return to Seraite. The location of Seraite is very far away from the place where the Soul King lives, but in such a place, there is an opportunity to study the Soul King. That is, after the Spirit King was dismembered by the 5 nobles, the fragments were scattered around the world. Some of these fragments fell in the world of Lingxi, and some fell in the world of Kizi. In the world of spirit children, Shinigami who possesses the fragments of the Spirit King will become very powerful and extraordinary because of the power of the Spirit King. In the world of artifacts, people who possess fragments of the Spirit King are more likely to become users of another type of ability, that is, full expression users. Even if this is just the scattered power of the Spirit King and is not worth mentioning compared to the real Spirit King, if it can be studied thoroughly, it will still be very important for Xian Yi to master the power of the Spirit King and completely understand the mysteries of the world created by the Spirit King. Helpful. With the help of the liberated Zanpakuto, Xian Yi finally succeeded in stealing part of the power of the ancient emptiness from the sealed sword spirit of the 8-mirror sword. Fortunately, this sword was rougher and more primitive than today's Zanpakuto. A special technique sealed a part of Taiko Shu in this sword. And Xian Yi's method was just enough to break the seal and steal some of the power from it. After stealing it, he restored the 8-mirror sword to its original appearance. On the surface, there was nothing wrong with the sword, but in fact, its power was now incomplete, just like how Shinigami was destroyed in Benkai state. Zanpakuto generally cannot be restored by itself with the help of Shinigami, and it has been damaged from the root. In the future, this sword will definitely still be usable, but it will lose its original power. However, this is not a knife used against people, and it cannot harm humans at all. Only the power of gods at the same level as Taikatsu can trigger the power in this sword, so it doesn't matter even if the power is not as good as before. Time flies. During this period, Kyoraku Shunsui had been chatting with his sister-in-law. They didn't know whether Xian Yi could find out the source of the Jingle family's curse, but they didn't hold much hope, so they might as well leave it to Xian Yi to try. Kido's wave hits. The barrier in the room was lifted. Kyoraku Shunsui gave up the chat with his sister-in-law and looked at the room not far away. The door opened, and Xian Yi walked out holding the Aizen family's 8-mirror sword. Senior Xian Yi, how are you? Xian Yi handed the 8-mirror sword to Aizen Ziyun and explained to her, there is indeed a powerful force in the 8-mirror sword of the Aizen family. This sword is very extraordinary. It is related to the blood of the Aizen family. Golian, only people from the Aizen family can wield this sword. But the curse of the Aizen family did not originate from this sword. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Aizen Orion frowned, of course she could understand what he meant. In other words, even if the sword is abandoned or even destroyed, the curse of the Aizen family will always exist. This is not good news. Xian Yi explained a few more words, if my guess is correct, the curse of the Aizen family should originate from the existence that this sword killed in the past. According to what you said, it is a sword specifically aimed at gods. Perhaps it was a certain god who was killed by this sword of the Aizen family in the past. Out of resentment, he planted such a curse on the Aizen family. Xian Yi did not say who the god was. Deep down in his heart, he actually already had the answer. Besides the Spirit King, who else could it be? As far as he knew, there was only one person in this world who could influence others through blood ties, and that was the Spirit King. All Quincy are descendants of Yuwatch. Yuwatch is the son of the Spirit King. Therefore, he can activate the Holy Spirit to forcibly absorb the power of all Quincy through the connection of blood, even to the point of annihilation. The holy words in Keishi's body were also engraved with his soul blood. Although the Soul King has not shown such abilities, he can still influence beings with Quincy blood, secretly manipulating Kurosaki Ichigo to come to the Soul King Palace and come in front of him. But you don't have to worry. Although the curse cannot be lifted for a while, now that the origin of the curse has been figured out, there may be a way to resolve the curse in the future. Xian Yi comforted Aizun again. Orion could only nod silently. At this point, what else can be said? I can only accept this cruel reality. Fortunately, Nanao is still young now, and there is still time to try to break the curse before she grows up. Although she didn't know how to break the curse in her bloodline, she had to try for the sake of her children. Xian Yi also gave Zorian some warnings. Although the Aizen family did not go to Seraite, as far as I know, your family is very special, and there may be many families paying attention to you secretly, so if you can, it is best to keep this knife tightly in your hands and not lose it. The knife is not the source of the curse. Xian Yi gave such a warning because in the original work, Orion gave the sword to Kiraku Shunsui for safekeeping in order to prevent the curse from extending to his daughter, and he himself lost the 8-mirror sword. He was sentenced to death. During the execution process, great nobles such as Tsunayashiro played a significant role in it. The former is the plot in the comic, while the latter is inferred from the description in the novel. For Kiraku Shunsui, the trip to the Aizen family did not yield much except for visiting his long-lost sister-in-law. Even after knowing something about the curse of the Aizen family, and knowing that the curse came from blood and had nothing to do with the 8-mirror sword, Kiraku Shunsui's mood never relaxed as long as the curse was not broken. Just as Orion was worried about his daughter, he was also very concerned about Nanao. Even though his sister-in-law was sent back to her parents' family, Nanao was still his niece and a bloodline of the Kiraku family. Now, I just hope that there will be a chance to lift the curse of the Aizen family in the future. Kiraku Shunsui has received a guarantee from Xian Yi. Xian Yi said that he will continue to study this point. The curse in the blood is a subject of great research value. With the endorsement of a big shot like Xian Yi, Kiraku Shunsui has more confidence. However, he did not place all his hopes on Xian Yi. If possible, he would have to try it himself. According to Xian Yi, the curse of the Aizen family originated from the gods killed by the 8-mirror sword. At least, he has to figure out what is going on with this god. The first thing Xian Yi did when he returned to Seraite was to open up a spirit space underground in his dormitory room. In the shadow of Seraite, there is a huge spiritual space hidden. He knows that this is where the invisible empire is. The Quincy who followed Yuwatch to invade Soul Society had some memories after their defeat. In the present world, more of them are hidden in secret. They hide in the shadow of Seraite and use the Quincy's ability to manipulate spirit children to open up a new space in it. No one knew they were hiding in the shadows of Seraite. For a long time, while they tried to recover their vitality and strength, waiting for the awakening of Emperor Yuwatch, they also monitored everything in Soul Society. However, this kind of monitoring also has its limitations. At least, some places with barriers and some hidden places cannot be monitored by them. Similarly, the spirit space opened by Xian Yi under the dormitory of Spiritual Arts Academy cannot be monitored. However, in the process of using Zanpakuto's ability to build the spirit space, Xian Yi reminded him of these Quincy hidden in the dark. If there is a chance, he can deal with them. After opening up the spirit subspace, the second thing is to get some specific instruments. Fortunately, Xian Yi once served as the captain of the 12th Division, has his own channels, and has mastered the corresponding technology. He secretly bought some raw materials, and many research equipment were also manufactured by him. Now, Part of the power has been obtained from the 8-mirror sword. The first thing he needs to do is to make special tools out of it. Only after creating the tool first can one attempt to steal the power of the Soul King's right arm from Jashiro Yukitaki's body. Time passes quietly. In the blink of an eye, several years have passed. Xian Yi's research has progressed by leaps and bounds since he found an entity that could touch the power of the Spirit King and created the corresponding tools. Every once in a while, he would visit Jashiro Yukitaki on the pretext of giving him treatment. Today, he finally succeeded in stealing part of the power of the Spirit King's right arm from Jashiro Yukitaki's body. As the power of this right arm was stolen, the condition of Jashiro Yukitaki's internal organs, which were maintained in a diseased state due to the ability of the Soul King's right arm to still, immediately worsened. Fortunately, Xian Yi took action in time, diagnosed and treated him, and finally rescued him. For Jashiro Yukitaki as a boy, the disease that could threaten his life is actually not a thorny problem for Xian Yi today. After this part of the power of the Spirit King's right arm was stolen, Jashiro Yukitaki's internal organs, which had been unable to recover due to the power of stillness, gradually recovered. This immediately dispelled some of Jashiro Yukitaki's suspicions. Because when Xian Yi stole the power of the Spirit King's right arm, he felt that something in his body disappeared, and he lost something. But this unprecedented sense of relaxation was something he had never experienced before. He truly felt that his physical illness was getting better. Thank you for your hard work, Senior Xian Yi. Jashiro Yukitaki took a closer look at the condition of his body. The recovery part of the patient who had been troubled for many years, even if he had not recovered, was good news for a person who had been sick for a long time. This was worthy of his excitement. He said to Xian Yi, thanks. In the past few years, even if there was not much effect, Senior Xian Yi always insisted on treating him, which deeply moved Jashiro Yukitaki. And today, the long-term treatment finally showed results. Perhaps one day, his disease can be completely cured. It's nothing, Xian Yi said calmly, treating you is also a process for me to improve myself. As for whether it was medical skills or other things that were improved, Xian Yi didn't say. Leave Jashiro Yukitaki's place and let Jashiro Yukitaki feel his relaxed body alone. The first time Xian Yi returned to Spiritual Arts Academy, he came to the secret base he had opened. From the spirit storage space opened with him, Xian Yi took out something wrapped in translucent light. This was part of the Spirit King's power that he had previously stolen from Jashiro Yukitaki. A finger on the Soul King's right arm. Although it is only a part, this power is still superior to the power of Shinigami. Time flies. A long time passed. Although Aizen Sosuke became a Shinigami, he did not forget Xian Yi, his master. Every once in a while, he would come to visit Xian Yi. Today, Aizen Sosuke has become the chief officer of the 5th Division. It can only be said that he is still too low-key. If he is willing to show his true strength, not to mention becoming the captain of the 5th team, he can at least serve as the deputy captain. Master Sosuke, no, it is more familiar to call Aizen. On this day, he came to Xian Yi again. Even if he became a real Shinigami, he never gave up his curiosity about everything. Secretly, he was doing some research privately under the guidance of Xian Yi. Of course, many problems will be encountered during the research process. This is also the reason why he came to Xian Yi and asked Xian Yi for advice. Whether it is Soul Society or Hueco Mundo, they are both worlds of souls. Everything in these two worlds is composed of souls. Any inanimate things we see in life are still the animals living in Soul Society and Hueco Mundo, and even the souls constitute their essence. They are all spirit sons. When the soul or something is destroyed, they will return to the original spirit sons and scatter in the world. Quote. So, the first step to analyze this mystery of heaven and earth is to understand what a spirit child is. In the room, Xian Yi was teaching Aizen. Xian Yi was wearing a white teacher's shirt from Spiritual Arts Academy, while Aizen was wearing a Black Death uniform. It seems incredible that someone who is not a Shinigami is giving lectures to a Shinigami. But Aizen listened very carefully. Every time he comes to Xian Yi, he gains a lot from his master. Whether it is Shinigami's 4 basic abilities, slaying fists and walking ghosts, Xian Yi has mastered them to an extremely sophisticated level, and is able to provide inspiration and guidance to Aizen, and even came up with many incredible ideas. For example, a brand new Kido was developed and used in conjunction with the slashing technique. When Zanpakudo is swung, Kido is released, which can launch 2 attacks with 1 slash. Or, combine white hits and Kido. White hits itself is the skill of close combat. If during this process, your body is surrounded by high-intensity Kido, you will have it with every move of your hands and feet. Extremely terrifying destructive power. In the previous history of Soul Society, there have been collaborations between Shunpo and Zanjutsu, Shunpo and White Hits and Zanjutsu, but the cooperation between Kido and Zanjutsu, and Kido and White Hits has never been done before. Genius idea. Mainly because Kido is a more complex one compared to the other 3 abilities. He needs to sing. Even if you give up singing, it still takes a while to prepare. However, Xian Yi also raised such a conjecture, and Aizen still chose to believe his master. Decided to try 1 or 2. Because this is indeed an interesting proposal. If the experiment is successful, it can effectively improve its own strength. As for how to start, he decided to start with the current Kido to see which Kido could be matched with Zanjutsu and which Kido could be matched with White Hits. If none of them worked, there was another way, which was to develop a Kido that could be matched with it. Over the years, Aizen has followed Xian Yi's guidance and has made some gains, but it will take time to fully complete these methods. And today, he learned a new lesson from his master. About the mystery between spirit children. Aizen was mesmerized as he listened to his master's explanation of many theoretical knowledge about the relationship between spirits. Master, who are you? Why do you know so much knowledge and so many secrets? This is not the first time that Aizen asked such questions to Xian Yi and expressed emotion after listening to Xian Yi's lectures. Faced with Aizen's question, Xian Yi smiled lightly, I'm just a calligraphy class teacher at Spiritual Arts Academy. Of course Aizen didn't believe such rhetoric, but seeing that his master was unwilling to say anything, he didn't get to the bottom of it. Another class, after being taught by Xian Yi, Aizen left Spiritual Arts Academy with a harvest, and then he returned to his 5th team. Except for the daily life in the squad, he used everything to digest the knowledge imparted by his master, and then explore the mysteries of the world. Among the Spiritual Arts Academy, teaching Aizen is a trivial matter for Xian Yi. Privately, in addition to fishing and other activities to kill time, he also has a lot of work. He stole a small part of the Soul King's right arm from Jashiro Yukitake, which made him a little more interested. He frantically studied this part of the Soul King's right arm, trying to analyze its mystery. All I can say is that the Spirit King is indeed a very magical existence. Even if it is only a small part of the body's tissue, Xian Yi is still fascinated by the power and the mystery contained within it. I don't know how the founder of the 5 nobles succeeded in murdering the Spirit King. Through a small part of the organization, looking at the whole, Xian Yi came to a conclusion. The Spirit King in the ancient times may have been invincible. As a result, the ancestor of the 5 great nobles suddenly broke this invincibility. In the underground spirit space, a seriously injured rabbit, whose neck was cut in half, was suspended in a ball of silver-white light. These are some attempts made by Xian Yi with the help of the fingertips of the Spirit King's right arm. Logically speaking, this rabbit's neck was cut in half, so it should be dead. But before it was dying, Xian Yi used the stop ability of the Dragon King's right arm to stop its death. Then, Xian Yi used Kaido to try to cure it, but unfortunately, it could not be done. The ability to stop can only stagnate his life in this momentary state. It is somewhere between neither life nor death. I want to die, because death is a process moving forward. Because it stops halfway, it has not yet reached death. Want to restore? That's even worse. It's a process of retreat. Previously, when examining Jashiro Yukitake's body, Xian Yi had already felt the special ability of the Soul King's right arm, but that feeling was still not as good as the feeling after he personally experimented with part of the Soul King's right arm. Reversal of life and death, breaking the natural law of life and death. The existence of the Spirit King is terrifying just thinking about it, and he is worthy of being the cornerstone of the world. On the contrary, when this power was placed in front of him, Xianyi also saw the hope of moving forward. He certainly knows how to push Shinigami to the next level. For example, gaining the power of a virtual person and allowing yourself to perform hollow is a way of evolution. But if possible, Xianyi doesn't want to become a virtual one. So, outside of the hollow, are there other possibilities to become stronger? After years of exploration and research, Xianyi is finally sure that the power of the Spirit King is one of the ways. This world was created with the help of the Spirit King. The existence of the Spirit King maintains the balance and order of this world, and no power under it can reverse this order. But there is only one exception to the power, and that is the power of the Spirit King himself. If you think about it carefully, in the middle and later stages of the original work, although many rule-based abilities appeared, they ignored the basic laws of the world and seemed unreasonable. But if you look into the reasons, isn't it closely related to the power of the Spirit King? Well, Hogyoku, an important part of it, is part of the Spirit King. Inoue Orihime's ability to reject everything, and Tsukishima Hidekiro's ability to change the past, are both perfection techniques, and those who use perfection techniques are actually humans who possess fragments of the Soul King. It's just that they themselves don't know this. In addition, there are many Quincy's with strange abilities. That would explain it better. Quincy are descendants of Yuwatch, who is the son of the Soul King, so it is not surprising that Quincy can master many rules-reversing abilities. No matter how many times I see this scene, I still find it amazing. Xianyi looked at the dying rabbit and couldn't help but sigh. The stillness of the Spirit King's right arm gave him many thoughts. However, when applying these ideas to himself, he must first conduct enough experiments and make many attempts. The souls of Soul Society don't have much concept of the passage of time. The ordinary souls of Rukongai live a hazy life just like humans in this world. Because they have no spiritual power, they can survive on clean water every day, and there is no such thing as hunger. On the other hand, those souls with spiritual power are instinctively hungry because of their spiritual power, and because they are not Shinigami and do not know the ability to absorb spiritual seeds in the air, they can only eat food with spiritual seeds, and through the food's ingest to relieve hunger. However, in Rukongai, food resources are limited. Some areas in the front were okay, because there was no shortage of food due to the favorable environment, but in the areas behind, the struggle became more severe. Not only was there little to eat, but even drinking water was scarce. In the last few districts, fighting breaks out among residents over some drinking water. Naturally, the atmosphere in that kind of place is really bad. Of course, having said that, whole souls with low material needs can still live like ordinary humans in this world. Living in Rukongai, the real pressure is on those souls with spiritual power. They were scattered among the Rukongai, like aliens. Because they don't belong to Rukongai. The only way for them to change this predicament is to become Shinigami. Before Gotei 13 was established, it was extremely difficult to become a Shinigami, and it all depended on talent. Nowadays, becoming a Shinigami is not that difficult. You only need to enter the Spiritual Arts Academy to have a chance to become a Shinigami. Compared with the whole soul, Shinigami is an out-and-out immortal species. Perhaps at the beginning, they were just like ordinary souls, caring about the passage of a year, but as they continued to absorb the spirit seeds in the air, their spiritual power continued to grow stronger, and their growth and development were compared with the whole soul will also become slower and slower. It can be said that the stronger the spiritual power, the slower the growth and development speed. If they stay in the same state for a long time, of course they will not go as before. Pay attention to the passage of time in 1 month of the year. Before I knew it, many years had passed. Xianyi's appearance has not changed at all from before. Ever since he left Team Zero, returned to Seraite, and then joined Spiritual Arts Academy, Xianyi is now a veteran teacher at Spiritual Arts Academy. Unfortunately, he teaches calligraphy classes. The calligraphy class has always been an unpopular course in Spiritual Arts Academy. Therefore, it is somewhat difficult for Xianyi to say that the world is filled with peaches and plums. But Xianyi didn't care either. For him, teaching at Junyang is just a job. Although he retired, there is no such thing as a pension in the Zero Division. Not only does the Zero Division not have it, but there is also no such thing as a pension among Gotei 13. Therefore, after retirement, if you want to live a comfortable life, you have to make money yourself. Over the years, his research on the power of the Spirit King has become more and more in-depth. For the purpose of research, he also treated Jashiro Yukitake several times under the pretext of treating him. He used a device created with the power of the ancient void to cut off the right arm of the Spirit King in Jashiro Yukitake's body. He also stole part of the power of the Spirit King's right arm. The loss of the Soul King's power was not understood by Jashiro Yukitake. On the contrary, because his lungs, which were kept in a state by the power of the Soul King's right arm, were completely healed by Xian Yi, he felt more relaxed and even grateful. I got up Xian Yi. This actually made Xian Yi feel a little guilty. This feeling of having secretly committed a crime and yet being thanked by the victim is really a bit subtle. Also on this day, a shocking news spread throughout Saraite. Regardless of whether it was Shinigami or not, when I heard the news, my first feeling was, it's fake. And after it was confirmed that this was not false news, what happened was shock. Karyashiki Kenpachi is dead. Karyashiki Kenpachi, many years ago, became famous in Gotei 13 because he easily killed Manos Grande of Vastolord level. He was once called the strongest Kenpachi in history. This Kenpachi is indeed worthy of his name. According to rumors, in addition to the power of Karyashiki Kenpachi himself, his Zanpakuto is also extremely powerful. He once conducted a Bankai test in the break, and was eventually warned by Central 46 that Bankai is not allowed near Saraite under any circumstances. There are even rumors that he received an invitation from the Zero Division but was rejected by him. Rejected. Regarding the latter question, Kyoraku Shunsui also asked Xian Yi at a private cocktail party. Xian Yi's answer is, although Kenpachi Karyashiki is very powerful, and at a certain level, he has met the criteria for promotion to the Zero Division, but after all, he has not created anything of great significance that has never been done before in Soul Society, so he does not have the qualifications to be promoted to the Zero Division. Qualifications. The latter should be a rumor. At this point, Kyoraku Shunsui just gave up. He didn't expect that today, the Kenpachi, known as 1 rider to 1,000, the most powerful Kenpachi in history, would actually die. It's true, I am one of the witnesses. In the Yugon Hall. Jashiro Yukitake's complexion is much better than it was many years ago. He still suffers from illness every once in a while, but it's just a cough and weakness for a while, and he doesn't fall to the point where he needs to lie on the bed. In fact, because of his improved health, he can now try to drink some of the drinks that he once refused to drink. You know, in the past, he could not touch things like drinks at all. He often held drinking parties and just watched his friend Kyoraku Shunsui drink there. He has never experienced this state before. One can imagine how grateful he is to Xian Yi. Although the treatment process for Xian Yi was very long, Shinigami lived a long life. For the first time in his life, Jashiro Yukitake was confident that he would become a normal person and his body would recover like a normal person. Because the death of Karyashiki Kenpachi shocked the entire Gotei 13. And Kyoraku Shunsui happens to be one of the parties involved. So Jashiro Yukitake invited Kyoraku Shunsui to the 13th Division as a guest, and Xian Yi also came here. When he was a guest, while drinking, he naturally asked Kyoraku Shunsui about the specific situation at that time. Kyoraku Shunsui had a complicated expression and did not hide anything. He explained the specific situation of the matter. The cause was the invasion of Rukongai by Manos Grande of Hawako Mundo. Captain of the 11th Squadron, Kenpachi Karyashiki, led his team to face Manos Grande. Under Karyashiki Kenpachi, no matter how powerful Manos Grande was when Hawako Mundo attacked, he was easily defeated. Kyoraku Shunsui, as the captain of the 8th Division, led the medical Shinigami from the 4th Division to support Karyashiki Kenpachi. When he arrived at the battlefield, the battle had already come to an end. Karyashiki Kenpachi and his subordinates were holding a cocktail party on the battlefield. How free and unrestrained it is to use the battlefield as a cocktail party. Kyoraku Shunsui was invited by Karyashiki Kenpachi and also attended the cocktail party. However, just halfway through the reception, a man dressed as an aristocrat came here and threatened to challenge Karyashiki Kenpachi. Although the timing of the opponent's challenge was very subtle, which disturbed many Shinigami's interest in drinking in the 11th division, but due to the rules inherited by the captain of the 11th division, Karyashiki finally accepted the challenge from that guy. According to the captain succession rules of the 11th division, when the Kenpachi challenge ceremony is carried out, a captain must be the witness, and then it will be carried out in front of 200 Shinigami. At that time, all the Shinigami Squadron 11 came out to fight against the Hollows invaded by Hueco Mundo, and I happened to be there, so I met these conditions. Kyoraku Shunsui spoke in a low tone as he recounted what happened at that time. Initially, none of the Shinigami present believed that the challenger could defeat Kenpachi Karyashiki. After defeating the 6th generation Kenpachi at Kawaishiki Kenpachi and becoming the 7th generation Kenpachi, there were actually many Shinigami who challenged Kayashiki Kenpachi, but none of them succeeded in the challenge. Later, after Kayashiki Kenpachi single-handedly killed Vasto Lord level Manos Grande, he challenged the ones are basically gone. Because Kayashiki Kenpachi is too strong. Although the appearance of this challenger is rare, no Shinigami is optimistic about the opponent. The result was unexpected. In the head-on confrontation, this challenger severely injured Karyashiki Kenpachi. Although he was also seriously injured, when it came to the result, he still won. Because Karyashiki Kenpachi is going to die. Facing the dying Karyashiki Kenpachi, the Shinigami of Division 11 fell into a riot. They frantically surrounded the seriously injured challenger, trying to kill him, and determined that he had used some despicable means to do so. Serious damage to the Karyashiki Kenpachi. Faced with this scene, Karyashiki Kenpachi used his last strength to liberate Zanpakuto and forcefully stopped the rioting Division 11 Shinigami. When Kyoraku Shunsui said this, his tone was a little low, and he imitated the tone of Kenpachi Karyashiki's speech at that time. What do you guys want to do? You guys are burdened with the number 11, don't mess up a one-on-one duel. I died under this guy's knife, and that's everything. I won't allow you to deny the iron rules of Squad 11. From today on, this guy is Kenpachi. Finally, he got rid of me and asked Mr. Sean to take care of the new Kenpachi. He also said that he wanted to compete with me and Jashiro. Having said this, Kyoraku Shunsui looked at Jashiro Yukitaki on the side. That's pretty much it. When Jashiro Yukitaki heard this, his expression was complicated, and he couldn't help but whisper the name of the hero who was known as One Rider to 1,000, Karyashiki. After finishing the many last words of Karyashiki Kenpachi on the battlefield at that time, Kyoraku Shunsui talked about another thing. That is, the man who defeated Karyashiki Kenpachi and was called Mole Hosuya once lamented to Karyashiki Kenpachi. If Karyashiki Kenpachi had used Bankai, the outcome of the battle might have been different. Regarding this matter, Kyoraku Shunsui also gave his own opinion. Although after using Bankai, Karyashiki does have hope to win, but once he uses Bankai, within a certain range, all enemies will be harmed regardless of friend or foe. This is why Central 46 issued a ban, strictly prohibiting him from using Bankai around Saraite's reason. If victory is achieved at the cost of hurting one's companions, then Karyashiki would rather choose to lose and die. This is Kayashiki Kenpachi, a Shinigami who will always protect his companions, always choose to lead the way, and choose to fight calmly. Even if he lost because he didn't use Bankai, he never felt sad or resentful. Instead, he blessed the one who defeated him. He sincerely hoped that he could lead Team 11 to continue to move forward, and he sincerely hoped that the other party would become a better player. A stronger Kenpachi himself. What a great person. Xian Yi listened quietly for a long time and also commented on Karyashiki Kenpachi. No one knows whether Karyashiki Kenpachi impressed him, but now that Karyashiki Kenpachi is dead, he doesn't mind praising him. Then, he asked Kyoraku Shunsui, "You said that the sword of the man who defeated Karyashiki Kenpachi and is now the new Kenpachi is invisible." Yes. Kyoraku Shunsui nodded. Although he was not seen holding a knife, there were many stab wounds on Karyashiki Kenpachi's body. It can be seen that the knife must be in his hand, but for some reasons, we were unable to peek into its existence. In the Ukantang Hall, Kyoraku Shunsui narrated the entire process of Kenpachi's replacement over drinks. For this new Kenpachi, Kyoraku Shunsui was not familiar with him before, but after the opponent became Kenpachi, especially before Karyashiki Kenpachi died, he asked him to tell Captain Yamamoto to take care of him. Kyoraku Shunsui naturally became interested in it. Judging from the appearance, the new Kenpachi Mole City Kenpachi seems to be born into a noble family. There are many nobles living among the Saraite, and it is naturally impossible for Kyoraku Shunsui to know them all. However, since he is a nobleman, and is the head of the Kyoraku family, he does not want to find out about Kenpachi Karyashiki. Difficulty. The Jinraku family was only second to the 5 great nobles. If it weren't for the small number of people in the family, and Kyoraku Shunsui chose to become a Shinigami and became the captain of the 8th team, he would definitely have a place in Central 46. To a certain extent, the relationship between Kyoraku Shunsui and Central 46 is actually closer than the relationship between the captain and Central 46, because Kyoraku Shunsui is one of Central 46's in the true sense, a person from the aristocratic class. With the help of the Kyoraku family's power, he easily found out the identity of Kenpachi from Mole City. After talking about the Karyashiki Kenpachi and talking about this new Kenpachi, Kyoraku Shunsui naturally didn't mind talking about the Mole City Kenpachi. According to the information I have investigated, Mole City Shuangye was originally the eldest son of the lower-level noble Mole City family. The Mole City family declined due to changes. Many small and medium-sized nobles who coveted the Mole City family framed most of their family members to death. His only one when the surviving sister was fighting against Hollow at the execution site. In order to protect her younger brother, she forced herself to use the Kido Double Lotus Blue Fire Pendant, which was originally unusable, and thus killed Manos Grande, who was thrown by the nobles and came to execute them. However, even so, those still refused to give up and continued to release Manos Grande to the execution ground. It was also at this time that Zanpakuto of Mole City awakened. Then there was a very bloody massacre. Because the cause of the matter was that these nobles coveted the Mole City family, and they were all dead, so after Central 46 found out these things, they did not hold Mole City responsible for their crimes, but sealed these things. It took me a lot of effort to find out these things. In fact, if Mole City hadn't suddenly challenged Karyashiki Kenpachi and became the new Kenpachi, I wouldn't have known that there was such a powerful person hidden in Soul Society. Kyoraku Shunsui sighed. Jashiro Yukitaki lamented another thing: although I was also born into a noble family, I still want to say that it is really dark among the nobles. If Kenpachi hadn't awakened Zanpakuto at the critical moment and reversed the tide of the war, he might have died long ago, and the nobles who framed the Molekiro family would still be at large. Kyoraku Shunsui heard Jashiro Yukitaki's disdainful remarks towards the nobles, but remained silent and sighed silently. As a higher-ranking noble, he has seen more darkness than Jashiro Yukitaki, a lower-ranking noble. But, so what? After all, he can't do anything. Who said he was a noble himself? Since he enjoyed the privileges of his class, he could only turn a blind eye to the darkness. The only thing I can do is not to create darkness myself. You said that Mole Shishwang, who has been peaceful for so many years, suddenly chose to challenge Karyashiki and become the new Kenpachi. What is the reason? It's impossible that you suddenly want to come to protect Soul Society and those nobles after being silent for so many years, right? Shinigami's duty is to maintain the balance between souls. But Gote 13's responsibilities do not include these. Protector, what court are you protecting? Saraite, naturally. Saraite is the area where the nobles live. The Moleho family was murdered by the nobles. Logically speaking, Moleho Kenpachi should have a deep hatred for the nobles, but in the end, he chose to join the Gote 13, and after being silent for many years, he suddenly made such a move. Choose. The reason was something that I didn't realize without thinking deeply about it before. Now when Xian Yi asked such a question, Kyoraku Shunsui immediately realized that it was unusual. He frowned. Whatever Mole City wants to do, I will keep an eye on him. Xian Yi took a deep look at Kyoraku Shunsui and said nothing more. A new generation replaces the old. For Shinigami of Saraite, the change of captain is a common occurrence. It would not be surprising if the person who is now replaced is the one who is known as the strongest Shinigami, Kenpachi. You know, Karyashiki Kenpachi is the 7th generation Kenpachi, which means that 6 Kenpachi have retired before him. Now that the 7th generation Kenpachi has been killed, it is reasonable to replace him with a more powerful 8th generation Kenpachi. Soon, the controversy surrounding the death of Karyashiki Kenpachi gradually subsided. The Shinigami of Gote 13 gradually accepted this new Kenpachi. The new Kenpachi is different from Karyashiki Kenpachi. He is a taciturn person. He usually does not like to hold cocktail parties like Karyashiki Kenpachi. This makes the 11th division, which used to be full of enthusiasm, gradually become quiet. But one thing that is better is that Mole Castle Kenpachi did not arbitrarily change the seats between the many Shinigami left by Karyashiki Kenpachi. The vice captain is still the vice captain Gosuke from the time of Karyashiki Kenpachi, and the other chief officers have not changed either. He never added new rules to Team 11. Even when Manos Grande appeared, Mole City Kenpachi took the lead and killed Manos Grande. Apart from being taciturn and not liking to talk or communicate with others, Mole City Kenpachi is definitely a qualified captain. Over time, many Shinigami of Team 11 gradually accepted the new captain. Beyond Seraite lies the vast Rukongai. Among Rukongai, except for the occasional souls with Shinigami appearance and spiritual power, most of them are whole souls without spiritual power. At this moment, Aizen is walking among Rukongai, making his own observations secretly. After understanding the mystery between spirit sons from Xianyi, he has been thinking about a question. What is the difference between a soul with spiritual power and a whole soul? Aren't they all made up of spirit sons? He wanted to find out the secret. Since we are going to study the secrets between souls, we naturally cannot do it behind closed doors and rely entirely on our own imagination. Aizen is a practical person. He came to Rukongai on the pretext of a mission, and through close observation, he felt the difference between the whole soul and Shinigami. Although the whole soul is also a kind of soul, it has no spiritual power. They died as humans in the world of artifacts and came to this world of spirit children. If they lived another life like ordinary humans in this world, and their longevity in this life was cut off again, they would completely turn into spirit children and dissipate in the world between. There is a cycle of souls between heaven and earth. In the long cycle, the souls are reorganized and new souls are born. If you are lucky, similar flowers may not appear, and souls that are exactly the same as before may appear. But this is just a possibility, and the probability of it happening is too small. Unlike whole souls, Shinigami, or souls with Shinigami qualifications, are inhabited by spiritual power, and their existence is unique compared to the vast soul society. This is not a joke. It is the result of statistics conducted by Soul Society. Counting the entire Gote 13 and even all the students at the Spiritual Arts Academy, there are only more than 10,000 Shinigami, no more than 20,000. It is assumed that there are many hidden gems among them, such as those who have never chosen to become Shinigami, but still live their lives. Among the souls of Rukongai, such as members of the nobility, there are only tens of thousands of souls with Shinigami qualifications in the entire world. What about whole soul? After death, all living beings in this world will fall into the Soul Society. Assume that there are billions of human beings in the entire world, and tens of millions of people die every year. At the same time, a similar number of souls in the Soul Society will enter a new reincarnation. The entire Rukongai District 80 combined, not to mention billions of souls, at least several 100 million souls. Therefore, the existence of Shinigami is unique and not surprising. Compared to this world, Shinigami is more like an alien. At the same time, it is not surprising that they would have such a high casualty rate. After all, they protect the entire world with such a small number. In the original work, there is only one Shinigami stationed in a city with hundreds of thousands or millions of people. It's not that Soul Society doesn't want to send more Shinigami to protect the world, but the number of Shinigami is really limited. What exactly is the reason for such a difference? Shinigami, why Shinigami? What is the principle behind the soul falling into Hawako Mundo and becoming void? Obviously in Soul Society, there is no soul with any spiritual power. Why did it become hollow after accidentally falling into Hueco Mundo? What is the reason for becoming a void? Among the Rukongai, Aizen secretly observed the souls and found that they were actually similar to humans. He could not figure out the difference between the souls for the time being. It can only be said that Aizen still has some conscience at this time. In order to achieve the goal, he did not wantonly harm the soul, wantonly trampled the laws of soul society, and violated many prohibitions. But his curiosity about everything is always there. On weekdays, except for conducting his own research secretly in Seraite, Aizen likes to come to Rukongai, an open space, to test some of his ideas when he has nothing to do. Such as Kido combined with white hits, Kido combined with Zanjutsu. He has carefully studied the concepts proposed by these two masters and gained some results. Recently, due to the slow progress in these things to improve his strength, he turned to studying the mysteries between spirit children taught by his master. Rukongai is huge. Even if Aizen, as a Shinigami, uses Shunpo, it will take a long time to pass through Rukongai. The areas he chose were the districts at the back of Rukongai. In these districts, due to lack of resources, armed fighting often breaks out. Basically every few days, conflicts arise between rival forces over water. This is not a game of house, but a real conflict that can kill people. The winner will then leave proudly with the water source. The losers, on the other hand, didn't even bother to restrain the corpses of the dead. After all, they are all souls. If they are not restrained, the corpse itself will turn into a spirit and completely dissipate in a short time. There is no need to worry about it rotting or polluting the environment. Seraite will not care about such a fight. Although Shinigami is committed to maintaining the balance between souls, as long as there is no large-scale soul disappearance or death event, they will not care whether the summoning soul died of natural causes or due to weapon fighting. Only the appearance of the void is different. Hollows live by devouring souls. They are in a state of hunger for a long time. Once they appear in Rukongai, they will keep devouring souls without stopping. If it is allowed to continue to rage, sooner or later Rukongai's soul will be eaten away. Therefore, whenever a hollow appears in Soul Society, Shinigami will rush there in time to kill him. Hidden in the dark, Aizen witnessed a fight in the back area of Rukongai. When the spirit died, its body began to transform into spirit children. There was nothing surprising about this process. At least, after this period of observation, he still didn't understand the mystery. Aizen felt a little boring and wanted to leave here. Suddenly, he felt a spiritual connection. That is, Shinigami's spiritual connection. In this world, any being who has Reiatsu must have a spiritual connection. For Shinigami, he can even use Kido's method to grasp the spiritual traces left by the opponent a long time ago, and then trace the opponent's whereabouts. In addition to himself, Shinigami actually appeared in this Rukongai. Aizen was very curious. He was already familiar with this Rukongai after long-term observation. It could be said that there was nothing surprising about it. Why did the other party appear here? When Aizen starts to be curious about something, the nature of the matter completely changes. Aizen followed the perception of spiritual connections and soon came to the Shinigami who appeared in Rukongai. The sound of screams reached his ears. The one who screamed was an ordinary whole soul of Rukongai. During the process of screaming, Aizen could clearly feel that the opponent who originally did not have spiritual power suddenly released Reiatsu. Unfortunately, this scene did not last long, as the opponent seemed unable to carry Reiatsu, and soon, his body exploded with a bang, completely annihilating him. Then, Aizen's eyes fell on the Shinigami who was torturing his entire soul. On the other party's body, he was wearing a white haori. There are two large black words on Yori's back. 11. Captain of the 11th Division, Mole City Kenpachi. Aizen's pupils shrank slightly and he was shocked. Aizen is not familiar with Mole City Kenpachi, but he also knows that the opponent defeated Kenpachi Kariashiki, who is known as the strongest Kenpachi in history, and became the new Kenpachi. In any case, Aizen is now the chief officer of the 5th Division. Because of its low profile, the current seats are not high, but it is still qualified to know some of Gote 13's secrets. If the Shinigami can be considered the samurai class, then the Kiken is the upper echelon of the samurai class. There are so many Shinigami in each division, and there are only a few dozen chief officers. Of course, if you want to fully know the secrets of Seraite, you may have to become the captain. Although Aizen is very confident in his talent and strength, at the moment, he is still not sure about becoming the captain. Maybe in the future, he will be able to become the captain of the division. When Aizen noticed Mole City Kenpachi. Mole City Kenpachi also discovered Aizen's location. He couldn't help turning his head and looked over. Unlike Aizen who found Mole City Kenpachi by relying on spiritual connections, Mole City Kenpachi's Zanpakuto ability is even more special. He can integrate his spirit into all inorganic objects, turn them into his own hands, feet, ears and eyes, and control them. In other words, when Aizen came to this area, he had already been seen by Mole City Kenpachi. Sensing the indifferent gaze of Mole City Kenpachi, Aizen's heart trembled. He knew that he had been discovered, so he simply didn't bother to hide himself and chose to show up. He looked at Mole City Kenpachi and took the lead in introducing himself. Captain Mole City, I am Aizen Sosuke, the 13th seat of the 5th division. Previously, I sensed Shinigami's spiritual connection, so I came here, but I saw you. If I'm not mistaken, the previous soul has completely died and turned into a spirit child because of you. May I ask, Captain Mole City, what are you doing? Are you violating Soul Society's ban and conducting some experiments? Even if the opponent is the 8th generation Kenpachi, the new captain of Team 11 who took over after defeating Karyashiki Kenpachi. Aizen didn't show any fear. He knew that when he witnessed what Kenpachi did in Mole City and was discovered by the other party, it would be difficult to be kind. Instead of hiding and escaping, it would be better to face the other party directly. He first moved out Soul Society's ban as a way to scare Mole City Kenpachi. After all, the opponent is the captain of Gote 13, so he should be wary. Mole City Kenpachi's expression did not change when he heard what Aizen said about the ban on Soul Society. He asked Aizen, since you have seen these things, then, member Aizen, what do you think of the hollow? Shoo. Aizen didn't understand what this meant. He also didn't know the story that happened to Kenpachi in Mole City in the past. If you knew it, you would understand that all the relatives of Kenpachi in Mole City were murdered by the nobles, and then all died in the hands of the void. Although in the end because he awakened Zanpakuto, he killed Shu and the nobles who were his enemies. But Mole City Kenpachi seems not satisfied with this result. This is why he chose to become the captain of Gote 13. Why did you become the captain of Team 11? Because this is the best kind of captain to be. As long as you have enough strength, you can directly reach the sky and become the captain. Mole City Kenpachi's tone was calm and unflappable. He said to Aizen, in this world, humans die every moment for various reasons. Among them, a large part of the souls of the deceased will be buried by Shinigami. I came to Soul Society, and partly because of various desires, I fell into Hawako Mundo. The souls who fall into Hawako Mundo will be reorganized due to the unique environment of Hawako Mundo. If they can regain their consciousness during that process, they will degenerate into hollows. Even if it was originally just a whole soul, as long as it degenerates into a void, it will still have extremely powerful power. The existence of virtuality has long posed a great threat to this world. But, isn't it our duty as Shinigami to maintain the balance between souls and choose to fight against hollows? We are born for this, aren't we? After hearing the words of Mole City Kenpachi, Aizen responded. He asked Kenpachi of Mole City, and asked back to Kenpachi of Mole City. He didn't understand why Mole City Kenpachi talked so much about hollow. Yes, Shinigami exists to fight against hollows. Mole City Kenpachi continued, but have you ever thought that the souls who can become Shinigami are only a minority, and the souls who degenerate into hollows are the majority? As long as Hawako Mundo still exists, emptiness will continue to be born. What does this have to do with what you did, Captain Mole City? Aizen was very smart and immediately realized that what Mole City Kenpachi said was related to what he had done before. Mole City Kenpachi did not hide anything and continued, since Shinigami alone cannot fight against the huge number of hollows, then, can we change our thinking and treat the souls in Rukongai that are larger in number than hollows? Transform them so that they can also have the power to fight against the void. Transform the soul. Aizen was sincerely shocked. He finally understood what Mole City Kenpachi was doing before. Why did the whole soul suddenly have Reiatsu reaction? Is this kind of thing really possible? Mole City Kenpachi glanced at Aizen with deep eyes. If you don't do some things, how will you know that you can't do them? As he spoke, his tone became deeper again. So, Team Aizen, can you help me keep this secret for the time being and not tell Gote 13 about it? Aizen's expression also became serious. He looked at Mole City Kenpachi, and finally nodded. Master, transform the soul, let the whole soul possess Reiatsu, and let them fight against the hollow. Is this really possible? In the Spiritual Arts Academy, Aizen looked at his master Xianyi and asked sincerely. Although he promised in front of Mole City Kenpachi not to tell Gote 13 what he saw, Aizen also knew very well that as Mole City Kenpachi, Gote 13 would not tell Gote 13 until there was no concrete evidence. He believed what he said, so he chose to hide it. But in front of Xianyi, who was not Gote 13, Aizen still told what he had learned and then raised questions. In the room, Xianyi's eyes flickered a few times after hearing Aizen's question. He did not answer the question immediately. After a long time, he asked Aizen. Sosuke, in your opinion, what is the difference between a whole soul and a Shinigami? Aizen frowned. This question is also the question I am exploring now. When Xianyi saw this, he didn't show off, but directly gave the answer, Lock Knot and Soul Sleep. Didn't you realize that only Shinigami has these two things? The existence of Soul Sleep is the key to Shinigami having spiritual power. This is also the biggest difference between us and the whole soul. Why do we have spiritual power? It's because besides the soul, we also have soul, which is Soul Sleep. Soul Sleep is where we generate and store spiritual power. Therefore, if you want to deal with other Shinigami in the future, you can actually do it completely. There is no need to kill the other party, you only need to destroy the other party's Soul Sleep, and the other party's spiritual power will collapse. Of course, just in case, it's best to destroy the chain link as well. If the Soul Sleep is the existence that generates and stores spiritual power, then the Lock Knot is the place where spiritual power is transmitted and transported. Through the linkage between the Soul Sleep and the Lock Knot, we can conduct spiritual power to all parts of the body. Then apply it. This is not the case with ordinary whole souls. They have no Soul Sleep, so they have no spiritual power and no knots. Where the Shinigami knot is located, what they have is the chain of cause and effect. It can be said that the chain of cause and effect is the predecessor of the knot. When the Shinigami's knot is destroyed, the chain of cause and effect will appear. When the chain of cause and effect continues to collapse and break, that is when the soul degenerates and becomes virtual, a process. When the chain of cause and effect completely disappears, a huge hole appears in the chest instead. This is the origin of the void hole. Speaking of which, you must also know that Shinigami and Shu actually have something in common. Xianyi's eyes fell on Aizen. Aizen nodded. He immediately grasped the commonality between them. The chain of cause and effect evolves upward and becomes a knot. The existence of the knot allows Shinigami to use spiritual power independently. The chain of cause and effect degenerates and disappears, becoming a void hole. The void hole is a symbol of emptiness. Since the knot is so important. So, does Shu Wei have spiritual power because he has a virtual hole similar to the knot? Aizen's thoughts kept passing by, and he finally understood how to give ordinary whole souls spiritual power. This matter is actually not difficult. In other words, if you want to let the whole soul have spiritual power, the way is. Aizen suddenly understood and said to Xianyi. Xianyi responded to Aizen's words, yes, destroy their chain of cause and effect and let them degenerate into nothingness. The chain of cause and effect cannot evolve into a knot, and even if it has a knot, an ordinary whole soul does not have soul sleep, which is where spiritual power is stored. But it is an extremely simple matter to make the chain of cause and effect disappear and become a virtual whole. Because the voids have no soul sleep, although they cannot store spiritual power in the core of their bodies, they have void holes that can instinctively devour spirits from the outside world. When many spirits enter their bodies, most of them will escape. Although it is scattered, some parts will still be integrated into its body, which is why the physical strength of the hollow is stronger than that of our Shinigami. The existence of the void makes them feel empty inside, and they instinctively desire to devour everything. Maybe the power possessed by a void is not strong, but this emptiness and desire to devour will make them instinctively kill each other, and instinctively devour other souls. When multiple virtual beings are combined together, the many consciousnesses among them will determine a winner and then achieve evolution. So, there is no need to marvel at the power of Manos Grande, because each Manos Grande is actually composed of countless souls. Xian Yi explained to Aizen in detail the difference between Shinigami and whole soul, and also the difference between Shinigami and hollow. Aizen finally understood the purpose of Mole City Kenpachi. In other words, Mole City Kenpachi's purpose is to transform Rukongai's entire soul into hollow. Then, use Shu to fight against Shu. How can such a thing be done? At this stage, Aizen, although he is curious about many things, still does not violate Shinigami's prohibitions. He couldn't accept what Kenpachi did in Mole City. This is a treasonous thing. Xian Yi did not answer Aizen's question. In his mind, he thought about the past about Mole City Kenpachi that he heard from Kyoraku Shunsui and Yugantang. The family was harmed by the nobles, and all family members died in the hands of Shu. Although he got his revenge in the end. But that incident at that time still left a shadow on Mole City Kenpachi. Does this prompt him to instinctively hate Yushu? As for why he didn't hate the nobles, it was probably because he had already killed all the nobles who framed the Mole City family. Only Shu is different. Hueco Mundo is vast and there are so many imaginary things. They have done great harm to the world. Therefore, Mole City Kenpachi wants to eradicate all hollows. From this point of view, Mole City Kenpachi is actually a very great person. Although it seems a bit despicable to transform Rukongai's entire soul and turn them into weapons to fight against the hollow, these sacrifices are nothing compared to its great goal. So, what do you think of what Mole City Kenpachi did? Sosuke, are you going to remain neutral and keep this secret for him, or are you going to choose to help Mole City Kenpachi, or are you going to stand against him? Xian Yi's sharp eyes fell on Aizen. Aizen feels some pressure. But soon, he made a decision. Perhaps Mole City Kenpachi's original intention is great, but our Shinigami's duty is to maintain the balance between souls. There is no doubt that Mole City Kenpachi's behavior will destroy the balance between souls. Forgive me. I cannot agree more. Aizen expressed his attitude. Then, he said seriously to Xian Yi, Master, although I promised Mole City Kenpachi, I will help him keep his secret and not tell Gote 13 what he did. But, I still want to try to stop him. This shouldn't conflict with my promise to take revenge secretly. Interesting. In response to Aizen's words, Xian Yi just curled his lips and gave a subtle smile. The era of Kenpachi has come to an end. The current Kenpachi is the 8th generation Kenpachi. This is the era of Mole City Kenpachi. Mole City Kenpachi is cold and taciturn, but he is a hero who took the lead when facing the invasion of Manos Grande. Although he has not been a Kenpachi for a long time, it has indeed made many Shinigami in the 11th division put away their prejudice against him. Then he recognized the new Kenpachi. Naturally, among Gote 13, the evaluation of the new Kenpachi also tends to be positive. However, no one knows that this new Kenpachi is actually an out-and-out villain. He is ambitious and wants to break the balance between souls. What would a world without hollows be like? On the way to Rukongai, Aizen thought of the question his master asked him before leaving. He couldn't understand this question. The master immediately told him the answer. The present world, Hueco Mundo, Soul Society, this is the world of Chi-Z and the world of spirit children. The world of Chi-Z appears in this world. It seems weak, but it nourishes the world of the two spirit children. If there is no present world, the world of spirit children, there would be no soul. If the present world is regarded as a lever on a scale, then Soul Society and Hueco Mundo are the weights on both sides of the lever. In the past, the souls of the two worlds were in a state of balance, so the world was extremely stable. But if one day, there is no void in Hueco Mundo, then the entire balance will tilt to one side involuntarily, and then the entire world will fall into a state of collapse. The only way to resolve the state of collapse is to erase an equal amount of souls in the Soul Society, turn them into spirit children, and integrate them into the world. Only then can the balance be restored to balance. What is the reason for this and what is the mystery, Aizen does not understand. But he knew that it would not be a good thing if all the Hueco Mundos were killed. So, he has to stop Mole City Kenpachi. Aizen has a kind of pride and a sense of responsibility. Since he discovered the conspiracy of Mole City Kenpachi, he has the obligation to solve the matter. Of course, in addition to this, Aizen is also a very principled person. He keeps his word. Since he promised Mole City Kenpachi not to tell Gote 13 about this matter, he really chose not to tell Gote 13 about this matter. As for telling his master, my master is not from Gote 13. In addition, another reason why Aizen mustered up the courage to face Mole City Kenpachi was because the master said something to him at the end. Just go ahead and do it. If you can't do it, master, I will personally take care of it for you. Rukongai, North, District 76. There are 320 districts in the entire Rukongai, and each district is very large. Although counted individually, it is not as big as Seraite, but it is definitely not small. When the souls in the world come to Soul Society, they will be randomly assigned to each district. As for which district you are assigned to, it all depends on luck. If you are lucky, you will be assigned to the front area, which has sufficient supplies. Those who are unlucky are assigned to the back area, and even the water source needs to be fought with others. Mole City Kenpachi has his own ambitions. He wants to transform the residents of Rukongai into weapons of war so that they can fight against Hawako Mundo. The residents of Rukongai are all ordinary whole souls. They have no soul sleep and no knots, so they cannot have spiritual power and naturally cannot fight against the void. So is there a way to give them spiritual powers? Mole City Kenpachi's idea is to destroy their chain of cause and effect. When the chain of cause and effect is destroyed, a hole will appear in the soul's chest, which is the predecessor of the void hole. If we use special techniques to stabilize their state after they appear hollow, can they be given spiritual power without becoming hollow? Although this trend is irreversible, as long as they can gain strength in a short period of time, that is enough. Mole City Kenpachi's Zanpakuto is very special. He uses the power of his sword to continuously transform Rukongai's entire soul. Because the atmosphere in the area behind Rukongai was not good, the souls would usually fight over water sources, resulting in many casualties. Some souls disappeared due to his experiments, and no one could notice them at all. The sound of screams came from the mouth of a middle-aged Jengen. His chain of cause and effect was destroyed, and his whole person continued to evolve in the direction of the void. He was about to degenerate into a real void. An invisible force swept past, and his spiritual body was completely broken, and then turned into a spirit sun and dissipated. Between heaven and earth. Failed again. Mole City Kenpachi's low words sounded. He was not upset at all when his experiments failed one after another. Instead, there seemed to be an invisible presence beside his ears that kept nagging and taunting him. Mole City Kenpachi was also annoyed by the ridicule. I couldn't help but yelled angrily, "Shut up." As a result, this angry rebuke not only failed to shut up the invisible existence invisible to outsiders, but actually made the other party become more and more proud, and more sarcastic words were uttered by the other party. Mole City Kenpachi saw that the other party was unwilling to shut up, so he simply returned to his taciturn look. Since you won't shut up, I'll shut up. Therefore, sometimes Kenpachi's reticence is not born, but forced. Anyone who has such a talkative Zanpakuto who likes to appear next to you and talk a lot of nonsense will become taciturn. The most important thing is that she still has her own knife, and there is no way to avoid these things. Yet another experiment failed. Mole City Kenpachi is going to find another whole soul for experimentation. At this moment, a figure wearing a Black Death Tyrant suit appeared in front of him. Mole City Kenpachi. After seeing Mole City Kenpachi, the other party seemed to have made some preparations and looked serious. Team Aizen, you want to stop me? Mole City Kenpachi's eyes fell on Aizen, calmly. Aizen said solemnly, I promised you not to inform Gote 13 of what you did, but as a Shinigami, my duty makes it impossible for me to ignore what you did. So I can only choose to stop you personally. Then you were really stupid. Mole City. After hearing Aizen's words, Kenpachi commented on Aizen's behavior. Aizen's expression did not change, and he still looked serious. Maybe in your opinion, I am indeed a bit stupid, but at least for the moment, I cannot tolerate your behavior that attempts to destroy the balance between souls. Mole City Kenpachi, you don't deserve to be a Shinigami. Mole City Kenpachi did not answer Aizen's words. Aizen knew that since Mole City Kenpachi decided to do such a thing, it would be difficult for outsiders to convince him. But he still wants to stop Mole City Kenpachi. So, how to stop Mole City Kenpachi? He thought about how the name Kenpachi would be inherited. Only by defeating the previous Kenpachi can one become a new Kenpachi. Therefore, the only way for me to stop Mole City Kenpachi is to defeat him. Shatter it, Kyoku Suigetsu. Zanpakuto was pulled out by Aizen, who recited his own Zanpakuto's liberating language and performed a shikai on it. Like a pebble dropped into a calm lake, ripples were created. After Aizen's sword was released, Mole City Kenpachi had such a sense of trance, and then the sense of trance disappeared. Then he saw Aizen still holding the knife. After shikai, the sword in Aizen's hand has not changed much, and is very similar to the sealed state. Mole City Kenpachi didn't know Aizen Zanpakuto's ability, but he didn't really care. Now that Aizen has chosen to wield the sword, what reason does he have for not using it? He was not wearing Zanpakuto, and there was no trace of the existence of any sword. However, when he raised his hand, a sword condensed from pure spirit appeared in his hand. Blade of Kido. Or something else. Seeing this scene, Aizen was a little surprised. As we all know, Shinigami does not have the ability to gather spirit suns. This ability is unique to Quincy. If Shinigami wants to use the spiritual power in his body, he can only use Kido to release it. In addition, the spiritual power can be attached to the soles of the feet, causing friction with the spiritual particles in the air, allowing one to burst out with powerful speed. This is the principle of Shunpo. But Mole City Kenpachi's current move was beyond Aizen's expectations. Without any chanting words, a sword made of condensed souls appeared in the hands of Mole City Kenpachi. How exactly is it done? If you figure out the reason, you may be able to make breakthroughs in many of your researches. For example, the combination of white hits and Kido, the combination of Zanjutsu and Kido, these subjects can all yield results. But Aizen also knew that now was not the time to ask questions to Mole City Kenpachi. After liberating Zanpakuto and confirming that Mole City Kenpachi saw his shikai, Aizen also developed some confidence in his heart. He knew only too well what Zanpakuto was capable of. When he first awakened Zanpakuto and mastered shikai, Aizen realized the power of his Zanpakuto. It was this power that actually made him a little scared. Therefore, he chose to hide his Zanpakuto ability. Anyway, this itself is Shinigami's prerogative. After all, Zanpakuto is Shinigami's greatest support, and Shinigami has the right to hide his sword's abilities from outsiders. Of course, during battle, you will inevitably use it so that others can see your Zanpakuto ability. Therefore, in front of outsiders, Aizen lied a little bit, saying that his sword was a flowing water-type Zanpakuto. He used the refraction of light and mist to give the enemy an illusion, and then bought himself time to catch him off guard and kill the enemy. Knife. This kind of ability is naturally a bit useless, but it is more of an auxiliary type of knife. But in the long history of Soul Society, all kinds of weird and even more useless knives have appeared. The members of the fifth team also believed in Aizen without any doubts. In fact, Aizen Zanpakuto's real ability, although it is also auxiliary, is not the flow system, but the illusion system. Its ability is complete hypnosis, which can control the opponent's five senses and let them perceive the appearance of a specific object. Shape, quality, feel, and even smell are completely believed to be what the owner wishes. It can be said that with the power of the sword, Aizen can turn a deer into a horse and completely turn a person into a puppet under his control. Of course, if you want to hypnosis the opponent, there is a price. That is, every hypnosis object requires a huge amount of Aizen's spiritual power. Fortunately, what Aizen lacks most is spiritual power. His spiritual power is extremely powerful. It is still growing today. Aizen does not know that he is where exactly is the limit. The next moment, Aizen held Kyoku Suigetsu, used Shunpo, and suddenly attacked and killed Kenpachi, the Mole City. Looking at Aizen's actions, Mole City Kenpachi didn't take it seriously. He also waved the long sword condensed with spirit seeds in his hand to face Aizen's attack. But unexpectedly, his attack failed. On the contrary, the next moment, a tingling sensation came over me. Mole City Kenpachi suddenly realized that he was injured. He looked sideways. He discovered that Aizen, who was originally right in front of him, came to his side at some point. Is Aizen too fast? Or have you made a mistake? Mole City Kenpachi couldn't understand, and frowned slightly. He then launched an attack on Aizen. Even in order to grasp Aizen's whereabouts more accurately, he also used Zanpakuto's ability to inject his own spiritual power into all the inorganic objects around him. Among the objects, let the surrounding trees and stones become your eyes and ears, so as to observe where Aizen is. As a result, a problem was discovered. The Aizen he saw through his 5 senses, including spiritual sense and vision, was beside him. However, with the help of Zanpakuto's ability, there were some deviations in the traces of Aizen. Is it the sword's ability? Mole City Kenpachi thought. On the face, there was no clue. He continued to attack Aizen. In addition to slashing, he also displayed a powerful Kido. He possesses an extremely terrifying talent above Kido. Even if the power of Kido is reduced by giving up chanting, it is not much weaker. At least, the Kido produced by Mole City Kenpachi without chanting is comparable to the Kido of many low-level Shinigami who are fully chanted. However, whether it was a slash or a Kido, basically everything fell into the air. On the contrary, because he was unable to grasp Aizen's whereabouts, Aizen used strange methods and left several scars on his body. The situation gradually became very unfavorable for Mole City Kenpachi. This is an incredible thing. Mole City Kenpachi was the strong man who defeated Karyashiki Kenpachi, who was once known as the strongest Kenpachi. He was the 8th generation Kenpachi and the captain of the Gotei 11th Division. And Aizen was just the 13th seat of the 5th Division. Even if among the many chief officials, he is also the one ranked at the bottom. As a result, at this moment, when facing Mole City Kenpachi, he actually had the upper hand. Feeling the condition of his body, Mole City Kenpachi gained a little more understanding of Aizen. All we can say is that Gotei 13 is indeed something to be reckoned with. Sometimes, a seemingly low-ranking official will suddenly give you a huge surprise. But Mole City Kenpachi still accepted such a thing without too much shock. After all, he himself was once a blockbuster person. Shinigami, who had never been in Gotei 13, directly challenged and defeated Karyashiki Kenpachi, which also shocked many Shinigami in Gotei 13. Mole City Kenpachi still did not give up the attack. Even if all his attacks fell into the air. At the same time, secretly, he is using his Zanpakuto ability to continuously scatter his own souls in the surrounding heaven and earth, integrating them into all inanimate things in the world. As long as this world is under his complete control. No matter how weird Aizen's methods are, there is still no way to escape. Finally, I don't know if it was a coincidence, or it was something that was bound to happen as Kenpachi integrated his spiritual power into the world. Mole City Kenpachi's spiritual power blended into the world and touched the Kyoku Suigetsu in Aizen's hand. In an instant, Aizen has lost control of the 5 senses of Mole City Kenpachi. He no longer has to consume a huge amount of Reiatsu to control Mole City Kenpachi's 5 senses, but this is not a good thing for Aizen. Because this means that his Kyoku Suigetsu ability has been cracked. The activation condition of Kyoku Suigetsu is that the 5 senses of the person who sees its liberation will be controlled by it. Apart from giving up controlling the opponent's 5 senses on his own, there is only one way to crack his ability, and that is when he activated his 5-sense control ability, the opponent touched his Zanpakuto blade. In the previous battle, Aizen could be sure that Kenpachi did not touch his Zanpakuto blade. So, why was my ability cracked? Aizen was shocked. Before he could react, Mole City Kenpachi also realized this with the help of his ability to be the eyes and ears of the world. It seems that your ability has been cracked. Then it will be my turn to fight back. Hado number 63 Fiery Lightning Howl. This is Fiery Lightning Howl without the chant. Mole City Kenpachi's palm was aimed at Aizen, and golden thunder spurted out towards Aizen. This is not the end. In Mole City when Kenpachi releases Fiery Lightning Howl. From all directions, countless voices sounded one after another. Those are the voices of Mole City Kenpachi. Hado number 63 Fiery Lightning Howl. Hado number 63 Fiery Lightning Howl. This is certainly not Mole City. Echoes of Kenpachi's words exist. Instead, He used his Zanpakuto ability to turn everything in the surrounding world into his ears, eyes, hands and feet, and used them to perform Kido. This is something only he can do. Kido multi-sing. In an instant, dozens, or even hundreds of Kido attacked one target at the same time. Even if its power is not as powerful as the original Kido after full chanting, or even slightly weaker than the normal Kido after abandoning chanting, when the quantity is large enough, quantity is enough to change the quality. Aizen's body was submerged by numerous thundering light balls. Even if Aizen activated Shunpo immediately, he could not escape easily. He could only use his powerful Reiatsu to resist the incoming fiery lightning howl. Boom boom boom. A roaring sound was heard, and powerful spiritual waves swept out. Even if this is the area behind Rukongai. When a battle of this level broke out, it was still caught by the Technology Development Bureau of the 12th Division. Although the 12th Division is located among the Seraite. But the area Shinigami monitors goes far beyond Seraite. In Soul Society and everywhere in the world, Division 12's spiritual wave monitoring devices are deployed. When there is a spiritual wave that exceeds the rules, Division 12 will issue an early warning as soon as possible. In the past, it was through this method that when Yushu appeared in Soul Society or in the present world, he would be discovered by Shinigami immediately, and then Shinigami would be sent to purify him. At this moment, the battle between Kenpachi and Aizen in Mole City, in terms of the explosive Reiatsu, has undoubtedly reached captain level. The captain level Shinigami fighting in Rukongai has no less impact than the appearance of Manos Grande in Rukongai. What exactly is this matter about? The 12th Division immediately reported the matter to the 1st Division. With the help of the Spirit Fax instrument developed by Xian Yi many years ago when he was the captain of the 12th Division, this report was printed directly by Shinigami of the 1st Division. After a while, it appeared on the desk of the captain, superior. When the captain learned about this, he immediately decided that the matter was serious, and then sent a message to Kyoraku Shunsui, the captain of the 8th Division, to go and find out the truth. No matter which two captain-level Shinigami fight in Rukongai, Kyoraku Shunsui should be able to stop it. Among Rukongai, Aizen didn't know yet that his powerful Reiatsu burst would cause a huge commotion. After finally resisting a wave of Mole City Kenpachi's Kido duet, Aizen looked a little embarrassed. As a result, new offensives from Mole City Kenpachi followed one after another. Hado number 90 Black Coffin. This Kido is Aizen's favorite Kido. As a result, I never thought that one day, it would be used against me by others. And, it's not even a black coffin. But just like before, it is black coffin after multiple chants. Countless black coffins emerged one after another and engulfed Aizen. Even if Aizen Reiatsu is powerful, at this stage, his strength is barely close to that of an ordinary captain. If he uses Zanpakuto's ability, he can even compete with an ordinary captain and catch the opponent off guard. But after Zanpakuto's ability was cracked, he quickly fell into a disadvantage when facing the powerful Captain Kenpachi of Mole City, and then, lost. It can only be said that Aizen is still too immature at this time. Although his Reiatsu is naturally powerful, his Reiatsu has been in a rapid growth stage and has reached the level of captain. However, in terms of other abilities, he is still a little immature. If you use Zanpakuto's special ability, you can have a chance encounter with an ordinary captain. Unfortunately, it was Kenpachi from the Mole City that he encountered. When it comes to Zanpakuto's strange abilities, Mole City Kenpachi's Zanpakuto is not inferior to Aizen's sword, and even, to a certain extent, restrains Aizen's Zanpakuto. After Kyoka Suigetsu was inexplicably cracked, Aizen was immediately at a disadvantage. Mole City Kenpachi cracked his Kyoka Suigetsu, and until now, he still hasn't figured out what Mole City Kenpachi's Zanpakuto ability is. It should be said that he didn't see Mole City Kenpachi's sword at all. Although Mole Castle Kenpachi condensed his spirit into a sword, it was obvious that it was not his Zanpakuto. But Aizen still had the same feeling as Kyoraku Shunsui. Even if the existence of the knife cannot be seen, the knife must be there. I lost. Under the cover of multiple black coffins, Aizen's body became dripping with blood. After he first entered Spiritual Arts Academy and understood what Shinigami was, he knew that his talent was very good. He could easily master the courses in the school, and he could easily resonate with the sealed state and awaken his own Zanpakuto. Later, when he joined Gote 13, Aizen discovered that ordinary Shinigami were nothing more than that. Shinigami, who was once so lofty and powerful to him, seems not to be as powerful as he imagined. Only the captains of the Gote 13 are still temporarily ignored by Aizen. However, Aizen firmly believes that as long as he gives himself enough time, he will reach that height sooner or later. Because the captain's strength can be seen through a glimpse. There is only one person who is different about Aizen. That is his master Xian Yi. He is obviously just a calligraphy teacher at Spiritual Arts Academy, but he is powerful and mysterious that belies his status. How strong is the master? Aizen doesn't know, but this does not affect his respect for his master. If he were not a master, his vision would still be limited to that of an ordinary Shinigami, and he would not be able to see the broader world. It's a pity that at this moment, he still couldn't hold on until the master arrived. Feeling the injuries on his body, Aizen sighed. Mole City Kenpachi, the captain of the 11th Division, taught him a deep lesson, made him see himself clearly, and also shattered some of his pride. Just when Aizen was thinking this, a low voice suddenly sounded in his ears. That's enough, Sosuke, you are already good enough. After all, your opponent is the captain of the 11th Division, a man who bears the name of Kenpachi. Aizen was stunned when he heard this. Master. He thought he was hallucinating. Then, he saw a figure in white clothes standing in front of him. This white shirt is not the captain of Gote 13, Haori, but the uniform of the Spiritual Arts Academy. Aizen came back to his senses and immediately realized that he was not hallucinating, and the person in front of him was his master. Mole City Kenpachi also saw the figure blocking Aizen. He didn't know Xian Yi, but from Xian Yi's actions, he could guess Xian Yi's purpose. Are you the one who wants to stop me too? Xian Yi said calmly. Sosuke is my disciple, and it is my acquiescence that he comes to stop you. Although I acquiesce in his behavior, as a master, I cannot just watch my disciple die. That's it. Mole City Kenpachi looked calm, still holding the sword made of spirit seeds in his hand, but pointed the blade at Xian Yi. He actually didn't want to make things too big. I just want to quietly test my ideas in Rukongai, try to transform the whole soul into a weapon that can be used for fighting, and finally go to conquer Hueco Mundo. However, Aizen found out about it first. Today, Aizen and his master stood in front of him, trying to stop him. In order to realize his long-cherished wish, Mole City Kenpachi could only choose to kill the person in front of him. Hado's 96, cremation with one sword. A deep voice came out. Aizen, who was behind Xian Yi, looked horrified. Of course he knew that cremation with one sword was a sacrifice of Hado. Among the Kido, it was listed as the forbidden technique, because one of the conditions for performing it was that his body would be burned first, so he had to sacrifice a part of his body. At the price, Hado can be displayed just now. Previously, Mole City Kenpachi used the plural number 90 Hado black coffin, which had already made Aizen feel the opponent's accomplishments above Kido. Unexpectedly, Mole City Kenpachi actually performed a cremation at this moment. Same as the previous black coffin. Cremation with one knife is also performed under plural chanting. I don't know how Mole City Kenpachi did it. He obviously did not wave his arms, but many huge flaming blades appeared between the sky and the earth, killing Xian Yi. You really think highly of me. Facing the many flaming blades approaching, Xian Yi commented. Mole City Kenpachi did not speak, but his attitude was clearly revealed. Although Aizen is only a chief executive, he is very powerful. And you, as Aizen's master, are obviously more powerful. In any case, it is necessary to take it seriously. Xian Yi looked at the flaming blade shrouding him, and low words came from his mouth. Hado number 90 black coffin. This is also Hado after giving up chanting. In an instant, the black coffin enveloped it and Aizen. Aizen, who was once again enveloped by the black coffin, did not feel any pain. On the contrary, he only felt the rumbling sounds coming from outside. The black coffin used to be a powerful Hado against enemies, but now, it has become a guardian Hado to protect them. Black coffin dispersed. The surrounding area became a mess. Mole City Kenpachi's injuries seemed to have become a little more serious. Although you can cast multiple Kido in this way, it seems that you yourself are not without cost. Shion Yi looked at Mole City Kenpachi seriously. Mole City Kenpachi said solemnly, "My condition is certainly not good, but defeating you is still enough." Shion Yi smiled faintly, obviously not agreeing with this result. Shion Yi just gave up chanting and cast Hado Black Coffin number 90, and easily blocked Kido, who used his Zanpakuto ability to cast multiple chants. Mole City Kenpachi couldn't help but look seriously at the man in front of him who was not wearing a Death Tyrant costume. Soul Society Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, he knows this. He didn't underestimate Shion Yi just because he didn't wear a domineering outfit. Just like himself, he became famous after challenging Karyashiki Kenpachi. Who can tell clearly that the person in front of him is not a strong man who is hiding? To deal with the strong, you must go all out. Mole City Kenpachi thinks so. As a result, he decisively used the ability that he used to deal with Karyashiki Kenpachi. This ability is his Zanpakuto ability. Yulu Tuoliu is the name of his sword. When he was in desperate situation, it was the awakening of this sword that saved his life and killed all his enemies. He didn't know what the Shikai liberation language of the sword was, because after awakening the sword, he easily reached the level of Bankai, and then he remained in the Bankai state and never lifted it. Even at this moment, he had not dismissed Bankai. And his ability after Bankai is that he can integrate his own spiritual power into the substances composed of all spiritual suns. The simplest ones are those inanimate substances. When his spiritual suns are integrated into them, he can manipulate them at will and turn them into his own eyes and ears. This is why Mole City Kenpachi was previously able to use multiple Kido chants. Because everything around him has become his clone. With the help of clones, even if Hado is sacrificed like using a sword to cremate him, it is these clones that are being sacrificed. Of course, there is a price. That is, once the material integrated with his spiritual power is destroyed, he himself will also suffer considerable backlash. The scope of this fusion is unlimited. Theoretically, if Mole Castle Kenpachi has enough time and enough spiritual power, he can turn the entire Seraite into his clone and monitor anything that happens within it. Except for inanimate matter. Mole City Kenpachi can also integrate his spiritual power into living materials, such as Shinigami's body. But this kind of thing is slightly more difficult. Because Shinigami itself is an aggregation of high-intensity spiritual power. The more powerful the Shinigami, the stronger its spiritual power and Reiatsu. It is difficult to control the opponent's body by relying solely on the spiritual power that Kenpachi of Mole City integrates into the opponent's body. Even therefore, it will soon be annihilated due to conflict with the opponent's own spiritual power. The spiritual power collapsed, waiting for Mole City Kenpachi to suffer an equal amount of damage. Therefore, normally, Mole City Kenpachi would not do this. He will only use this move when he encounters a truly powerful enemy and his ordinary methods cannot work. When facing the Kenpachi, he integrated his spiritual power into the body of the Kenpachi, and then manipulated the air that was breathed into the body through his breathing, turning the air into an invisible sharp blade, severely damaging the Kenpachi from the inside. Although because of the powerful Reiatsu that Karyashiki Kenpachi burst out, the spiritual power he integrated into his body was quickly destroyed, and he suffered a backlash and was seriously injured, but Karyashiki Kenpachi died directly. Compared to the results, this is something worth doing. At this moment, Mole City Kenpachi repeats his old tricks. He integrated his spiritual power into the surrounding air. As Shion Yi breathed in and out, the air blended with spiritual power immediately entered Shion Yi's body. Because Shion Yi is a Shinigami, there is extremely powerful spiritual power in Shinigami's body, and the spiritual power containing the will of Mole City Kenpachi entered it, and he was under great pressure immediately. He was walking on thin ice, struggling to let his spiritual power exist in Shion Yi's body. Then, the air turned into an air blade. Want to kill Shion Yi from the inside. However, when Mole City Kenpachi did this, he suddenly found that the air blade he had condensed with his spiritual power disappeared. Not only did the air blade disappear, but the spiritual power contained in it also disappeared. The dissipation of spiritual power made Mole City Kenpachi's complexion become paler, and his aura suddenly became weak. How did you do it? Mole City Kenpachi had doubts. Just like when he used Zanpakuto's ability to crack Aizen's Kyoka Suigetsu, Aizen had many questions in his heart. The difference was that Aizen kept his questions in his heart and did not ask them. As for Mole City Kenpachi, he asked directly and expressed his curiosity. Because at this moment, he discovered that not only the spiritual power he integrated into Xian Yi's body disappeared. The spiritual power he integrated into everything around him also disappeared. The spiritual power is decomposing into the original spiritual children. His will lost its place and then disappeared directly. In response, his soul was immediately severely damaged, and his body also suffered extremely serious trauma. But even after suffering such an injury, Mole City Kenpachi remained silent and endured it silently. All I can say is that he is worthy of the name of Kenpachi and is a real man. It's very simple. Xian Yi looked at the curious Mole City Kenpachi and gave the answer. Our world is the world of spirit children. As long as you control the spirit children, you can resolve most crises. Unless, you don't use spirit children to attack me, but as long as your attack contains spirit children, it can be cracked by me. Mole City Kenpachi's pupils shrank slightly and he looked a little moved. Aizen, who was behind Xian Yi, was also a little surprised. How is it possible to control a spirit child? Master, has he actually reached this point? Xian Yi ignored Aizen's shock, looked at Mole City Kenpachi, and continued, your ability is very strange. It can make your voice and spiritual power appear in all directions, and then use multiple Kido chants. Previously, I even feel that there is a new spiritual power in my body, which condenses the air into a sharp blade. I think this spiritual power should belong to you. Let me guess, what is your ability? Xian Yi pondered for a while and then said to Mole City Kenpachi, is it fusion? Or is it the incarnation of all things? It's fusion. Mole City Kenpachi did not let Xian Yi continue guessing and directly gave the accurate answer. There is no doubt that Xian Yi guessed it right. Mole City Kenpachi's ability is fusion. At this moment, because the spiritual power belonging to him around him dissipated, and the spiritual power integrated into Xian Yi's body also disappeared inexplicably, Mole City Kenpachi suffered a backlash and was directly seriously injured. He fell into a disadvantage, knowing that there was no hope of making a comeback, so he simply revealed his secret. To Xian Yi, I can integrate my own spiritual power into the matter composed of all the surrounding spirits, and then control them. Among them, the inanimate matter is the best to control. There are living beings, such as Shinigami. Although I can integrate spiritual power into their bodies, but Shinigami itself has high-strength spiritual power, so I can't control their bodies, but I can still do something. For example, condense the air into a sharp blade and attack me inside my body. Xian Yi raised the corners of his lips slightly and looked at Mole City Kenpachi in front of him. I was not present when you fought Karyashiki Kenpachi, but I also heard about the situation of that battle. Not long after you fought him, he had a lot of stab wounds inexplicably on his body. You used this method, it might hurt him. Mole City Kenpachi did not hide anything and nodded, yes. Aizen, who was behind Xian Yi, was shocked again when he heard the brief conversation between his master and Mole City Kenpachi. After the shock, he fell into deep thought again. Mole City Kenpachi Zanpakuto's ability is really weird. By integrating his own spiritual power into the materials composed of all spiritual children and controlling them, if these things become his clones, no wonder there were so many voices of Mole City Kenpachi when he used Kido. Mole City Kenpachi can use so many Kido in one moment. So that's what happened. When its spiritual power is integrated into everything around it, the seemingly lifeless vegetation around it becomes a clone of Kenpachi, the Mole City. In addition, Aizen also has the answer to why Mole City Kenpachi cracked his Kyoka Suigetsu. When its spiritual power blends into everything around it, including the air, it becomes a part of Kenpachi's body. The way to break Kyoka Suigetsu is to touch the blade of Kyoka Suigetsu when he activates the ability of hypnosis. Such a thing is naturally difficult for ordinary people to do because they don't know the reality of Kyoka Suigetsu. As for Mole City Kenpachi, he doesn't need to know this at all. When he activated Kyoka Suigetsu, he was already in the body of Mole City Kenpachi. When his sword touched the air, it was as if Mole City Kenpachi had touched his sword. No wonder Kyoka Suigetsu's abilities fail. After understanding everything, Aizen's eyes suddenly became deep. Interesting. Although defeated by Mole City Kenpachi. But it made Aizen understand something. That is, Kyoka Suigetsu is not omnipotent, nor is it as unsolvable as imagined. In the final analysis, you still have to become stronger. Only your own strength is the foundation. After understanding the reason why Kyoka Suigetsu was cracked, Aizen thought of other things. Although such a knife is very powerful, it also comes at a price. Obviously neither my master nor I launched any attack on him, but he was seriously injured directly. Is it because the surrounding material integrated with his spiritual power was destroyed? One's own spiritual power is integrated into all things, turning all things into clones of oneself. However, if the clone is damaged, it will also be fed back to the main body. After understanding this, Aizen felt that although Kenpachi's sword was still very powerful, it seemed to be nothing more than that. At least this power comes at a price. What a powerful knife. Xian Yi praised Mole City Kenpachi. Mole City Kenpachi doesn't have much to be proud of, but I still lost, didn't I? Controlling the spirit child, is this your ability Zanpakuto? If so, it seems that I didn't lose unfairly. Mole City Kenpachi made a guess about what happened before. Based on what Xian Yi said, he guessed that it might be Xian Yi Zanpakuto's ability that caused all the spiritual power of him to blend into everything around him to dissipate and turn into the purest spirit, sun. Such ability is undoubtedly a restraint on his Zanpakuto ability. Not long after the plan was implemented, he met his nemesis. Mole City Kenpachi does not feel sorry for himself because of this. For him, victory is victory and defeat is defeat. When he met Xian Yi, maybe fate wanted to stop him. Xian Yi looked at Mole City Kenpachi, who was still extremely calm, and was a little surprised. He didn't know much about this Kenpachi. In his previous life, the original works he had read were only anime, but he had heard of official novels. This Kenpachi appears in the novel, and it seems that Yu Mujian escaped from prison after the decisive battle with Aizen, and had a fight with Zaraki Kenpachi, but the more detailed details are not clear because I have not read the novel. Xian Yi didn't understand why the other party was imprisoned in Wujian. However, based on what Aizen discovered, it can be speculated that the imprisonment of Kenpachi in Mole City may be related to what he is doing at the moment. After his thoughts flickered, Xian Yi turned to Mole City Kenpachi and said, I heard some things about you from Kiyoraku Shunsui. You were born into a noble family, but because of certain things, all your family members died in the hands of Shuan. But I still don't understand something. Why would you want to transform Rukongai's soul to fight Hawako Mundo and destroy all hollows? Although it is true that your family died in Shu's hands. But the culprit of everything should be the nobles, right? After Aizen heard these words from his master, he looked at Mole City Kenpachi curiously. He didn't know the past of Mole City Kenpachi, but at this moment, through the few words of his master, he did know a thing or two. It turns out that all Kenpachi's family members in Mole City died at the hands of Kion. No wonder he wants to destroy all the void. But what does it mean that the culprit is a noble? Mole City Kenpachi was in a trance after hearing Xian Yi's words. He did not expect that after so many years, someone would check his past and find out what happened to him. He couldn't help but think of the execution led by those nobles many years ago. Manos Grande was summoned to the execution ground by them using special means, and then, his family members died one by one in the hands of Manos Grande. In order to protect him, the only sister chose to die with Manos Grande. However, those nobles were still not satisfied, and summoned a new Manos Grande, trying to kill him completely. Thanks for watching, subscribe and support my channel.